Hello, we're live. It's me, Stephen Englander, at the live chat show of Between the Spreadsheets, and we've had a really fun day today. We've been planning the future for Accounts Direct, which is great because we've got all these new campaigns, all these new ideas. One of them is the Build a Better Business challenge, which our groups are getting more and more full and people are starting to interact with each other. It's a lot of fun. And we've also been planning on how we're going to be promoting the Between the Spreadsheet show even more. And it's all stuff I love because it's all about planning, and I like planning, and a little bit of tonight's show is going to be talking about planning because that's what I always talk about. Because we even though I've entitled it Scams, Spams and Special Offers, it's all about planning really as well. So, you know, now I must say we've also been talking about Tamagotchis. Do you remember Tamagotchis? You know, it's like I was just saying to some of the studio guys here tonight that my daughter had a lot of Tamagotchis and she trusted them with me one day and they all sort of died, and I thought you probably don't remember what Tamagotchis are, so I won't keep babbling. But I also had I did that silly thing the other day because I saw this guy now and he was looking very miserable. And I did that, you know, I was silly because I said, "What's the matter?" You know, it's like when you say to somebody, "What's the matter?" They go and tell you. And he was saying, "Oh, I'm in trouble. I need I need cash, you know, and I've got no idea where I'm going to get it from." And I thought, "Oh, thank God for that." I thought he was going to ask me for it, but you know, it's getting yourself into trouble is often about not planning. It's about overreaching yourself. And in fact, I got a note from somebody before, just came in on email, and they said, "I've got too much stress and I can't concentrate, so I can't plan the business. What do I do?" And I thought, well, you know, sometimes you look at why you're getting stressed, and it's often because you've got conflict going on. There's things that you should be doing, but you're really not doing it, and that I don't understand. You're in business to make money. Don't forget you're in business to make money. So you've got to do what you've got to do to make money, as long as it's not immoral or it's not breaking the law or it's not doing anything like that. But you do need to know, have a plan of action, what you're going to do before you jump into it. I mean, you know, I'm not being insensitive to people that are in trouble, and I mean, to quote Ronald Reagan, when you're up to your armpits in alligators, it's hard to remember to drain the swamp. So you know, we don't really want to borrow money to get out of trouble. You know, we want to borrow money because it's part of our sort of planning, that we do a cash flow projection and we say we need X amount of money in June, X amount of money in July, and then we try and make sure we've got it. And if we can't secure those funds, we don't wing it, we don't chance it, because that's the cause of stress. It's all about preparation. Now, on this note as well, there's a lot of people out there, a lot of people in business, and you've got two types. One that's sort of like do the work, and the other one that takes the credit for doing the work. And what I'm saying to you is try to be in the group that do the work, not the group that takes the credit, because there's less competition there. I mean, I know a lot of people. We're into a lot of specialisation where lots of people do different things, so you can't do everything yourself. But we do need to look at taking responsibility for our actions. A lot of people do get cheated. They get cheated all the time, and it's because they're not focused on what they can do. That they're willing to give things away. I mean, I look a little bit about my business and I treat it like my surname. I mean, my surname to me is a gift to my children. You know, so if I make a mess of what I do and give myself a bad name, then it's not going to be a great legacy for them, is it really? So again, planning, and this is coming to my next point. I know it's a little bit scattered, but you'll see the point soon. We've got a legacy in our surname, we have a legacy in our business, and what we don't want to do is entrust that to other people. And when you bring in people like eBay, Amazon, Deliveroo, all these types of firms, what you're doing is that you're giving them control over your business. Now, I said last week that they've been a godsend, especially in the current climate, but they should be used in a calculated method to achieve your own goals. What you don't want to do is hand over control of your business to them, because let's face it, if they're collecting the money, if they're getting the customers to go onto their app, then they are controlling everything. So you don't want to do that. You need to be in control of everything around them. You need to use them, not the other way around. Now, the book, so to speak, always stops with you, not with other people. So if you get complaints about deliveries, or you get complaints about something in the supply chain that isn't in your control, well, whose fault is it? Is it them, or should you make sure that you've got things in your control? And this is, and you build up a stronger business that way. It might be a bit harder. I mean, I remember I had a fish and chip shop once. No, I did, honestly. And what I learned from that fish and chip shop was that I would never want a fish and chip shop again. It's such hard work, honestly. But for those of you that do have fish and chip shops, and you're delivering via companies like Deliveroo, then that's great. But I used to, even like, well, how long was it? 35 years ago, I was still loading fish and chips in my car on the way home to deliver to people, and I was building up my own round. And that's the point, you're building up your own round. Obviously, like my wife at the time thought the car stunk of fish and chips, so I had to stop doing that. I mean, my car still smells of fish and chips sometimes, but I don't need to tell my partner that, because I'll only get into trouble. Now, moving on to other forms of being cheated and sabotaged and undermined. I was watching a programme the other day on television, and it was about this guy who was trying to save pubs from closing down. The problem that pubs often have is that they don't always have control over their supply chain, and it's difficult enough, whether we've got COVID or whatever, to get people into your pubs and into your restaurants and into your shops without being dictated to about what you can and can't buy. Now, over the years, I've dealt with pubs that would brew with breweries that were tied to the brewery, and honestly, they could go into Tesco's and buy drinks cheaper than they could from the brewery. It was horrendous. It really was horrendous. I'm not sure why anybody would buy into a scheme like that. So what happens is, you see a pub, and it works with some restaurants as well, if they're part of the big chains, and you've got a lump of money. You think, I want to run a pub. You go and pay the money over. You even put a deposit down, and what happens is that you can't make money, because your beer is so expensive that you can't make a profit on it. So you try and make profit on the food, but you never quite get enough people coming in. And one day they come to you and say, look, this place is a bit tatty, let's refurbish it. And the brewer will turn around and say, look, this is what I'll do, it'll cost £100,000 to refurbish, but don't worry, because you don't have to pay it, we'll just put the price of the beer up, and we'll bring it back on the barrelage of the beer. And before you know it, your beer's gone up again. You're not getting the turnover that you thought you'd get, and you've got problems with the brewery. And then you find out that the £100,000 that was spent to refurbish it, well, the whole thing could have been done for £40,000. So, I'm not saying all breweries are crooks and thieves, but I reached a point several years ago that it was getting so upsetting that so many pubs were closing down because of their relationship with the brewery. And we even got to the stage where we had to ask, should we represent people with tied houses? And it's really not fair. The other thing they do, and I spoke to one of the area managers because he was ready to leave, and he was saying what they do as well, they look at your profits and they try and raise the rent to cover 50% of your profits. So whichever way you're going, it's problematic. Now, if you want to be in the pub game, if you want to be in a restaurant, get your own place, get your own supplies. Don't go along with this unless you've got very strong contracts, and you say, no, I won't that. I want a guest beer. I want 3 guest beers. No, I'm not having minimum sales. No, if I want to do the place up, I'll do it my own way. And that is actually what other firms do as well. I mean, I used to. You don't see very many independent petrol stations anymore for the same reasons, because when times are good, all the breweries and the petrol companies, they employ managers, and when times are bad, they franchise it out. And I was acting for a petrol station many years ago, but I don't think it's changed. And we actually calculated that whenever the client was in a bit of a strap, their answer was, well, look, we're going to have a promotion and we're going to reduce the price of the petrol by a penny. And price, like things like petrol, are they call it price sensitive, price elastic. And what happens is you've reduced the price by a penny and all of a sudden your turnover triples. But then you've got to find the cash to pay for that petrol in advance. So it brings even more problems. So really, they don't want to reduce the prices. They just want more people in to buy from the shop in the garages. And that's why a lot of garages have shops, because they can't make any money on the petrol. It's the breweries, not the breweries, the petrol companies take it all. So it's be aware of that. I mean, franchises in general are quite a good idea. I mean, it can help you overlap all the learning curve. It means you're not learning everything from scratch, but it brings its own problems as well. I mean, would I buy a franchise? And the thing is, I probably wouldn't, because there's too many restrictions of what you can and you can't do. And at the end of the day, unfortunately, there's no real substitute for experience. And you want to be very clear why you would be buying a franchise. I mean, if you buy a McDonald's franchise, then you can sort of say, well, you know what, I'm getting a massive brand. If things go wrong, then it's going to be the brand that takes the hit, not me, because they're going to make sure they don't lose face, they don't lose the brand, and they will adhere me to very strict trading conditions, so they'll make sure I don't go too far wrong. It might not be what you want, but the cost of these things are so expensive. You're talking into hundreds of thousands of pounds, and you might not earn that. I think these types of franchises are designed to give McDonald's the profits, not you. So you'd earn a living. You'd probably do better than an unknown franchise, but just do be aware that you're dealing with people that are experienced sharks. And when it comes to smaller franchises, that a lot of them don't give the backup that you need, and sometimes you'd be better off setting up your own business. I mean, I nearly bought a McDonald's franchise once. I did. I went through one of those drive-thrus to get a cheeseburger, and they asked me if I wanted a franchise with that, and I said yes. And then, but luckily I managed to get out of the contract. You are buying. I mean, look, just going back to McDonald's. There's an old sort of like comment that a lot of consultants will tell you, will say to you, and you say, could you make a burger? Are you capable of making a burger? I mean, I couldn't, but I've got Hayden in the background nodding. Yeah, I make great burgers. And the thing is, can you make a better burger than McDonald's? And you probably could, because they're not great. I mean, I like them, but only because I'm so used to them. But they are crap, So, but can you make a better burger than McDonald's? Yeah, of course. But could you sell as many? Perhaps not. So the skill in McDonald's is the skill in marketing, in selling. It's not the skill in a quality product. I mean, I love them, but they're not the skill in a quality product. So sometimes you ask yourself, if you did open up your own burger place, your own restaurant, your own pub, and you made your own burgers and your own recipes, and you concentrated on that, you wouldn't sell as many as McDonald's. You probably wouldn't even sell as many as the local McDonald's, but you might make more money on each one. And at the end of the day, profit is sanity as opposed to turnover, which is vanity. But if you just bear in mind, always look at the profit margin. Don't look at anything that detracts from that. Don't get caught up in these get rich scheme. Being the biggest isn't always being the best. It might not have been the most profitable, but you might not sell more burgers, but you might actually make more money. So do bear these things in mind. I mean, I think my daughter asked me the other day why, because KFC is the same thing. They're all the same thing, but she said, why is the toilet paper in KFC so bad? I didn't know, and she said because it's finger licking good. And I thought, why am I even telling people this? But when it goes back to your surname and your business, it's to connect them together again. I look at my surname as, whether I like it or not, it represents my family, it represents my history, it represents my father, my grandfather, and it's associated with everybody within my family. So I don't really want other people to control that, and I certainly don't want a reputation that I've built being tarnished by eBay or Deliveroo and everybody else, and I certainly don't want my product being copied by them or I want, when I deliver my burgers or my fish and chips, I want them to know it's come from me. Maybe that's not what you want, but I think when you're willing to pass this sort of responsibility for your product, when you're willing to pass it over, when you're willing to sacrifice and do deals with the devil, then sometimes I wonder why. Is there something deeper? And there is something deeper, because if you're not taking control and you're not doing what you need, then there's a problem. And I find that a lot of the problem is that you just don't want to deal with people. It's not laziness, it's not silliness, it's just something that stops you from wanting to deal with people. If there's one thing, and I always say this, that you could do that would massively change everything, all you've got to do is tell me what it is. You possibly don't want to touch that. Your mind doesn't want to go there. But at the end of the day, if you stand behind your products and you show people that you care about the products, and it's more than just buying and selling something and making a quick few quid, then you won't want to deal with all these firms. You'll want to put your own deliveries in. Maybe you'll want to knock on the door and say hello to your customer. I don't know. Maybe they'll want to see your logo splashed all over your jacket. I don't know. But what I do know is that the more you subcontract, the more you give other people control, the weaker it will make your business. I mean, I can go out there and for a lot less money than I'm spending trying to promote between the spreadsheets and accounts direct and everything else, I could bring in a team to do all this. But I don't want it branded under their names. I want it, I want everyone to know that Stephen Englander, between the spreadsheets, are all about accounts direct. We're all the same thing, just coming at it from different angles. But at the end of the day, you've got to weigh up what it is that you need to do against what you're willing to do, and hope that somewhere in between you can make some money. And if you do have some self-limiting beliefs that you can't get out there and you can't knock on doors and you can't do what it takes to win those customers and keep them, then I know a couple of counsellors. I do know people out there. Now, while we're on the subject of online automations and scams, people taking advantage of you, let's have a look at these online rating firms. Where people put comments about your hotel, or about your restaurant, or about your products, or about the service you gave, and you've got to bear in mind that whether we like them or not, these things are they're hugely influential. Some businesses more than others. I think I was reading somewhere that a recent study of 86% of people do use online reviews to guide them. I think it's more retail than business to business, but especially people 18 to 30 type age groups, they've grown up with this, and they do trust online reviews. But can you trust online reviews? I mean, it's they're dangerous. They're dangerous because they can be manipulated, and they often give a false impression. People by nature tend to complain more than they compliment. People by nature, when they're raging, will go and write a review. People don't always go and say nice things. They do, of course they do, but the scathing reviews are the things we've got to deal with. Now, the other problem with these reviews is that it's often about perception with people. Even if they've not got an axe to grind, even if they're not being vindictive, some people's expectations are not what they thought. They've come in, things aren't what they think it will be, and they get all upset about it. So this is another thing that you've got to become good at in managing people's expectations. You've got to let them know what people do expect, I don't know if you've ever been blind dating and the pictures of this gorgeous 26-year-old, and what you actually meet is someone in the late 40s that isn't so gorgeous. We've got to manage expectations. So do project the image that you are going to deliver. So delight rather than disappoint. But then the more insidious side of this is that there's a lot of rogue businesses out there that offer to look at your sites and make sure that there's nothing detrimental in them, blah, blah, blah. And if you don't take them on, some of them start putting spam messages on. Competitors do it. It is unpleasant. I mean, and then you get other things, disgruntled people. I mean, I've been in business now since pretty much 17. I'm now 58. I've been in business a long time, and you don't please everybody, but hopefully you don't upset people enough that you wage a war online. And I find that you get people that don't complain until you say, look, you owe me some money, you need to pay it. So they don't feel they have to pay, and that's when the fighting starts. Or I got a complaint once from a client I'd never met, never even seen. They weren't a client, they've got us mixed up with someone else. And then we've had another one where we actually brought the police in because it was what I was saying, they were trying to blackmail me into paying them something to not put reviews on. I mean, have you ever heard this nonsense? But you do have to watch these things. Now, if you do get complaints online, and do read them, do go through them, you can put them into different sections, because you can say, yeah, I've got a complaint. You know what? Maybe the client had a point. So maybe put it right. Even if they've annoyed the hell out of you, go and calm down, and don't start fights on a public medium. Don't wash your dirty laundering in public, as they say. But do deal with it. If you feel it is a spam, it is an unfair thing, or they've used bad language, or made personal remarks, or anything to do with sex or religion or creed or anything like that, then the people that operate these sites are obliged to take them down and listen to you. But on the whole, they're so difficult to get through to anybody. But if there is someone does have a complaint, learn from it. Simply learn from it. And if somebody isn't happy and they are 100% in the wrong, it's maybe best to try to smooth it out in the public. I mean, there's a website that posts, I was reading some of them, of what people have said in retort to what the nasty things people have put, and sometimes you get applauded by it, but do stay polite, even if at first you think it's fake. If it's fake, take it another way, and if it's vindictive fake, you can get the police involved. There is whole industries planting fake reviews, and there's industries planting good reviews as well, just sat there all day typing reviews out. So if you're a victim of bad reviews, do look at what I've just said and stay calm. And if you're getting people contacting you to improve your reviews, another thing, be careful, because you want reviews to be organic. You want them to be natural. People soon start seeing reviews that are planted. So I mean, some people have even gone as far as to try and arrange contracts with customers that they're not allowed to put bad reviews on. But of course, you can't do that type of things. Now, I've got a few bits here, but I'm bored of that now. Let me have a look at this one. I'm terrible with money and receipts, even though I've got QuickBooks. Well, if you've got software that manages your accounts and manages your traffic of invoicing and whatever, that's great. But you do have to use it. Just because you've got it doesn't mean to say that you can't. That you don't have to do anything. And this is another note that I'm not plugging Accounts Direct, but one of the things that I always found is that people can keep books, they just don't want to, or they can't be bothered, or they haven't got time, or they haven't done anything else. And whether they used to keep them in they used to keep them with Simplex D books or Collins Cathedral books or all that type of thing, or whether you now keep them on Sage or QuickBooks or Xero, whichever accounting package you use, you've still got to do it. And sometimes it's easier to take someone that can do it for you and present you the figures. Now, that seems to be in contradiction to what I've been talking about by try and do everything yourself. And what I'm talking about here is doing the key things of the business in-house, so the service is yours, the delivery is yours, that you are in control. Having somebody to do things like your books or your legal contracts, it's more of a specialist area, is something that they work with you. So when you've got, it's all very well doing the dog work, but you need someone to explain what's going on within your business by using the accounts that you've got and say, look, this is the results. So you don't have to run it, but you do have to be aware of the results and understand the profit and loss account, the balance sheet, the relationship between cash, expenditure, assets, everything else. And that's what we tend to do with people. So let's just have a look at this. I mentioned I was blackmailed a while ago, didn't I? So now I'm going to look at the next part of this, which is automation. I mean, automating your business procedures is really, really good. Now, I use some software called Salesforce, but it doesn't have to be Salesforce, but there's loads and loads of automated things to do. You can automate emails going out to clients, you can automate communication, you can automate tasks and jobs and reminders and everything else. And automation is great. It's the goal to have money's coming in, services being carried out, and everything's automated, so you can just put your feet up and go to sleep, or better still, do even less and become a broadcaster like I'm trying to become. So, you know, automation is great, but you can very quickly lose control again. And this is the thing where a lot of software companies put you into a position where you begin to lose control. So you can't do that. There's some companies that have tried and tested methods that lend itself to automations, like the big software companies. But whatever business you're in, you need to be in touch with clients. You still need to have that personal touch. You know, if you become a big business, and there are automation flows, like telephone answering, that type of thing. And when you're a big business, you can do that, but you need to get to be a big business, and it doesn't happen overnight. I mean, I know Accounts Direct suddenly became a bigger business, but to be honest with you, it took 30 years to get there. So, you know, it's every day looking after your customers. Now, just some tips if you are going down the route of automating social media. Just remember that communication is much easier and quicker, but that doesn't mean to say you connect with people. So to keep that connection going with people, so that you've still got your personality in front of them, do pick up the phone and dial. I mean, you know, forget emails as anything other than a backup. Do pick up that phone and dial and speak to people. You will get more business than anything, except by going and visiting them face to face. So every so often, do visit your customers. Let them know who you are and that you're alive. You know, some people send handwritten notes. I can't, because I can't read my own writing, let alone other people reading it. You can go, you know, take the odd customer or a few people out for a drink, out for dinner. You know, when you are out with people, and even when you're having a conversation with them, do be meaningful in your questions. Don't just come and chit chat, because then you'll become friends, and you don't want to become friends. You want to be friendly, but you want to supply your goods and services. So do keep the questions quite a bit deeper than, you know, like how did you see the game last night, and always be frank and open. Don't tell lies. Don't try and cover things. Just don't try and be a big shot. Just tell them as it is. You know, I've got this gear, I've got this bottle, this glass of water. It's really good. And let them have them for £3. You know, whatever your prices are. And it's not about making friends. It's about creating value, that value in yourself. Now, coming to the end of today's talk, and just very quickly about advice. I get given advice quite a lot, because apparently I do a lot of things wrong, and but my favourite advice came from someone quite a long time ago. He's an accountant acquaintance who was busy telling me that I do everything wrong, and then in his next breath he was saying he's on his way to the bank because he's got to use his accounts his wife's account to put money in because he was a bit in arrears with his mortgage, and it was maxed out to his overdraft, so he couldn't put it in his own account. But he was, I'd parked my new Jag round the corner at the time, so I'm glad he didn't see that because I didn't want to upset him. But I do struggle to take advice from people, and just bear this in mind. Why would you take advice of somebody who is not achieving in the area that they say they're going to? I'm not talking about someone that tells you how to wire a plug or how to fix your car. I'm talking about people that tell you how to run your business. If they're not doing so great themselves, then maybe don't be nice and think, well, you know what, maybe they've just fallen on hard times. So when they're out of hard times, then listen to people, because there's too many high-priced advisors that promise the world, and they've got so many degrees, mainly in the bleeding obvious, and what they do is they peddle FOMO, so the fear of missing out. So they say, "Well, do this," but there's no magic formula. If you've got a rich dad who'll give you the money, that's great, but there's no magic formula. You've got to get out there, you've got to call clients, and you've got to speak to people without trying to just constantly sell them things. How are you? How do you find the product? Was it good? We've got a special on next week. I can let you have a couple if you've still got some left. Whatever it is you want to talk. I mean, our training programs there's modules in how to pitch deals. When you do want to take an advisor, especially a business coach or someone to help you, I think it's a great idea. But the best thing to do is get to know the person that you're talking to. Get to know, you've got to respect someone to take advice from them, and they've got to be in touch with what you're doing. I was always good for years on dealing with people with small businesses. Why? Because I grew up with small businesses. I was good with helping people source products and buy from China and places like that. Why? Because that's what I used to do. So I'm ingrained in that. I don't know anything about being a mechanic, but I know how a garage operates, because I deal with small business, I deal with people, I don't deal with big corporations. So once you get to know somebody and they understand you, then what you really want is if they can give you advice that you didn't know, then you're doing something wrong. Because it's not about the advice you get, it's about a good business coach is someone that doesn't tell you what you already know, and you shouldn't find something new, you should know it. Lots of books out there, lots of experience out there, but what they're good at is setting your targets and making sure you're doing it. Nothing like, well, how many leaflets did you give out last week? Oh, none. Well, why? I was never one of these people who say, oh, don't worry, give out more next week. I'm like, well, why do you give them out? If you know it's going to bring money in and it's going to keep your missus shut up and stop nagging you because you've got no money, then ask yourself this: have you got more money in the bank this week than you had last week? Or, really you should have. But that's the real value of employing professionals, to hold you to account, because you've got to be accountable. And at the great day, at the end of the day, if you are focused on your own business and you're not looking at get-rich-quick schemes, then you're not going to fall foul of any of these scams. And that's that. Now, I've got a few minutes, so I'm going to give you some great quotes. It's just I found them amusing, no other reason. So I've got one here: never interrupt your enemy when he's making a mistake. Whether you can think or you can't, you're right. I've always said that, but I kept memory for it. I thought it was my comment, but it wasn't. Always forgive your enemies, because nothing annoys them more. Now here's something: that the successful man is the one who finds out what the matter is with his business before his competitors do. Think of that one. There's no secret about success. Did you ever know a successful person who didn't tell you about it? It's all out there. And don't worry about people stealing your ideas. If they're any good, you'll have to ram them down people's throats anyway, because no one ever listens. You've got to keep shouting about what you do, and keep yourself in front of people's eyes. Now, here's another one: that if you can count your money, it means you don't have enough. And never invest in anything that eats or needs repairing. And if at first you don't succeed, you're probably running about average. The most popular labour-saving device is money. It's still money. It'll always be money. And artificial intelligence, no matter how good you get it, is no match for people's stupidity. If at first you don't succeed, that failure might simply be your style. Embrace it. And the best one of all is all you need in life is ignorance and confidence, and then success is sure. Just focus. That's another way of Mark Twain saying focus on what you're doing. You don't need to be super intelligent, super energetic, with super abilities. You just need to focus on what you're doing. And, you know, if you see a bandwagon, it's too late. Thank you. Oh, I've got a question. Richie Allen. Hiya, Richie. All this valuable information. There's no need to fear an ill wind if your haystacks are properly tied down. Absolutely. Oh, there is something that this week we had a great chat, a couple of chats lined up. A guy called Tom Holland, he's joining us. He's going to be in between the Spreadsheets podcast. He helps businesses to float their companies. So who knows, we might have some advice for those budding entrepreneurs who fancy being a public company and quoted in the stock market. So we're going to have a proper look at that and how it relates to you and how you can do it on a budget. We've got Jo Ashley. She's yet another coach, but she used to be a dancer. So let's see how dancing can help people in business. And I mentioned before that our mentoring groups are starting. People are starting to bond, they're starting to get to know each other, and they're giving each other advice, which is probably better than advice coming from me. So do join one of our groups. If you don't know how, just contact me as always, and I'll get you in one. It doesn't cost you anything. And I want to thank you very much for listening to me drone on, and I hope I was of value to you. Thank you for joining me. Good night.